Thank you. Okay, thank you for coming out, everyone. We're so excited to have you here for the first general meeting of the year. Start sharing my screen. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes. Yes, we can.
Okay, awesome. Let me full screen this. Okay, go ahead, intro PowerPoint presenters and take it away.
Alrighty, so hello everyone and welcome to Pre-Pharmacy Society at UCI's first general meeting for the winter quarter. We just want to appreciate everyone who was able to come despite the circumstances. We know how hard it is to get involved, especially when we're virtual, so we appreciate it. Today I'll be presenting the intro slides along with two other amazing board members. I'm Rana Nabulsi. I'm one of the board interns for this year, and I'll let the other two presenters introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Allie and I'm the IVP. I will also be presenting the slides with them.
Hi everyone, I'm Jenny and I'm the president.
Alrighty, so we'll go on to the first slide. Alrighty, so here's how to become a paid member. So firstly, you can fill out the PPS membership form, which you can find the link in our weekly emails as well as on the website. And then the second step is to send in your membership fee by Venmoing PPS at UCI. And then after you've completed steps 1 and 2, you can email our internal vice president, Allie Mills, at her email to pick up your exclusive member t-shirt, or you could have it shipped to you. And then lastly, you can keep track of your stamps using our virtual stamp sheet. Alrighty, so here we have our PTCB question of the week. Now, these are just questions that come from previous pharmacy technician certification board exams, and they'll just give you a good example of what kind of questions come up on the exam and get you kind of more prepared for it. So the question of this week is, what is the DEA Form 222 used for? The choices are A, to report the theft of controlled substances, B, to document the destruction of controlled substances, C, to order Schedule II medications, or D, to prescribe Schedule II medications. And then you can answer on the poll right there. Alrighty, so it looks like most people got the correct answer, which is choice C, to order Schedule II medications. Good job, everyone. Alrighty. Okay, so we also want to thank everyone who was able to make it out to the winter retreat. We hope that you had a great time bonding with the other members, and we do hope that it was still memorable despite the fact that it was virtual this year. And hopefully, next year we'll have better circumstances. And here I'll pass it off to Allie Mills, the internal vice president.
Hi, everybody. So we have an upcoming event that's actually right after this meeting. We're going to have our week 1 after social. Our lovely social chairs have planned out a fun game of Scriblio. So if you're interested, feel free to hop on to our Discord, I believe. Yes, very fun. And an upcoming event that we have is our week 2 social. So it's next week on January 13th from same time, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. You can find the link to our Zoom here, however you found it, or in our emails. So why would you want to come out? Well, you can hang out with your fellow PBS members and get to know them a little bit better with some really fun games that we have planned for you as well. Also, paid members get a stamp for attending. So if you need some incentive, there it is. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please contact our EVP, our External Vice President, Dana, at her email there. And a volunteering opportunity that we have is the Step Up Tutoring. This is a really cool opportunity for you to help foster that educational growth to elementary school students. They range from, I believe, 3rd grade to 6th grade. Yeah, and all they ask is that you commit at least 2 hours a week for 10 weeks, and you don't even need experience. I think it's a really good opportunity because you get to teach them subjects in like math and English, and if you want a good opportunity to give back to your community, here it is. There's a link on our slides. There is also a link on our emails and on our website. So if you're interested, feel free to check it out. Paid members do get a stamp for taking on this opportunity. Jenny.
Yes, sorry about that, everyone. Okay, so a volunteering opportunity we started last quarter is Free Rice. Free Rice is a website that donates to the World Food Program, and you can help donate this money by answering trivia questions that they provide for you. And this is really convenient because they also have an app that you can use. And that app I just use like whenever I have downtime, I answer some trivia questions, and then you get rice grains, and then those rice grains translate to currency that they donate to the World Food Program. And their goal is to end hunger, achieve food security, and improve nutrition. If you are interested in helping out in this way, you can definitely join our group on Free Rice, and you can use the join code right there under the interested section. And if you are a paid member, you can receive a stamp by helping out and just filling out our Google form. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can direct them to me. Now we're going to have our ambassador, Tyler, talk about Pre-Pharmacy Day.
Hey everyone, it's great that you all came out. It's really nice seeing some new faces and returning faces this quarter. For those of you that are new, my name is Tyler, and like Jenny mentioned, I am your ambassador for this year, and I'm here to talk to you about one of our largest events of the year, which is PPD, or Pre-Pharmacy Day. Essentially, this event is a large-scale networking event and activity-based event where pharmacy school deans and representatives such as Mr. Gonzales himself comes to UCI to talk to you guys, our prospective pharmacy school students. Throughout the morning, workshops and panels with topics ranging from applying to PharmCast, careers after pharmacy, and interview tips will be held. And this is really a great way to bond with some of the people that will be interviewing you on your journey to becoming a pharmacist. Attendance is free to attend, and prizes and gifts will be given throughout the day. So I think this is a really great opportunity. The event will take place next Saturday, the 16th from 9 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. I highly recommend signing up as soon as possible, as space is limited, and we would love to be able to get to your preferred workshop or school. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out to me at my email down here, or if you have a pressing question, of course, message me on Zoom.
Thank you, Tyler. So now I want to talk about an event that we are working with PPS at UCSD with. So they're interested in having a TFT tournament. For anyone who doesn't know what TFT is, it's just, it's called Teamfight Tactics. And if you are interested in joining this tournament that we have planned with the PPS at UCSD, please be sure to fill out our interest form. This is something that we're going to use to determine if we have enough members interested in order to hold the event in the first place. And today will be the last day that we're considering any interest before we make a decision if we can hold the event or not. So if you are interested, please be sure to fill it out today. It's also found in our email if you would like to. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can ask me and I'll try my best to answer your questions. PPS also has a Spotify collaborative playlist. This is something that's new, and if you just have a Spotify account, you'll be able to listen to any songs that have been added to it or even add your own. This is just a chance for our members to get to know each other better. Maybe you can bond with someone over similar music tastes or just learn about what else other people like to listen to. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns about adding songs or listening to anything on the playlist, you can direct them to our fundraising chair, Ryan. We have many platforms. As you can see, we would love if you can connect with us on these platforms. We have a Facebook, Instagram, Discord, website, Zoom study room, and now we have the Spotify playlist. All of these websites and links can be found at the bottom of all of our emails.
And now, without further ado, we would like to reintroduce again Mr. Joel Gonzales and Ms. Lauren Anderson. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us. I know there's so many familiar faces I see, and I miss actually being able to reconnect with people in person. I was just chatting with Christy, and I feel like I just haven't seen her in so long. And normally I would see her, it seems like at least a couple times a year at different events hosted by UCI. My name is Joel Gonzales. I'm the Director of Admissions, and joining me on the session is Lauren Anderson. And Lauren is our Outreach and Recruitment Coordinator. She's a new staff member, and so she gets to kind of shadow me as we do some of these presentations, and will be certainly representing UCSF in the future, helping me out with a lot of the outreach and recruitment events that we're involved in. I'm going to start my presentation with a PowerPoint, and Lauren is going to provide a link in the chat box that includes all the handouts that I would normally have when I'm meeting with people in person. So our brochure, there's a curriculum map in there that I'll reference during the PowerPoint. There's a list of prerequisite classes from UC Irvine. So some of the things that we would normally supplement our presentations with, so that you have something to physically look at and to take with you once the presentation's over. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and kind of kick things off. I know my time is limited. Let me see. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. And again, I always want to preface these presentations by letting those in the audience know that this is a really high level presentation. I mean, if we were to look at everything in our PowerPoint, it would take us several hours, because we kind of can get into the nitty gritty and go deeper into the various areas I'm going to talk about. But I've had to kind of zoom out a little bit. And I'm just going to do a basic overview of UCSF, of the School of Pharmacy, of our curriculum, and the admissions piece, because I do want to make sure that we have a little bit of time at the end to answer some questions. So again, this is kind of skimming through fairly fast and covering just some of the higher level points. Many of you are familiar with UCSF because we're all sort of part of the UC family, but for those of you who aren't, I do want to let you know that UCSF is a graduate school only. It's one of the only unique schools in the UC system that's a graduate school only. We have 4 professional schools: the School of Medicine, Dentistry, Pharmacy, Nursing. Then we have a graduate division, which is where our 19 PhD programs and our 11 master's programs are housed. I often describe UCSF as a flipped model of a university. At UC Irvine, there's upwards of tens of thousands of undergraduate students, and then a smaller population of faculty and staff. At UCSF, that model is flipped. We only have about 3,300 students and about 25,000 faculty and staff. So you can start to see how many faculty and staff are here to support a small population of students. We have about 1,500 clinical residents as part of our institution and about 1,000 postdoc scholars. In total, that community represents about 94 countries. We're a leading organization in healthcare. We're proud of our Nobel laureates. We're the top public school recipient of NIH funding. We have over 1,700 active inventions out of UCSF and nearly 185 startups, being sort of in a really innovative area of the Bay Area. UCSF patient care ranks among the best in the country and also in the world. UCSF Medical Center is the #1 hospital in California, and really provides a unique training ground for our students. Those of you who've been to our campus, you know that the medical center is actually physically connected to our learning buildings. And so literally you can be in the hospital with just a short walk out of class, and it provides a really unique training ground for our students, like I said. And this is something that's not offered at every PharmD program. We certainly have some PharmD programs in California that have their own medical centers, UCSD, UCI, et cetera. But not all PharmD programs have that access to their own teaching hospitals. And so certainly UCSF does have that opportunity for our students. Zeroing in a little bit on the School of Pharmacy, I mentioned that the university was the #1 recipient of NIH funding. When you look at PharmD programs across the country, UCSF School of Pharmacy is the top recipient of NIH funding. We have about 80 full-time faculty members, about 600 volunteer clinical faculty. Those volunteer clinical faculty are those pharmacists who are precepting our students when they're on rotations. And so those individuals have been vetted to make sure that they're providing the type of training expected of a UC PharmD student. And we boast about 6,000 alumni, most in California, because that's mostly where our applications come from, but certainly those alums are spread out throughout the United States and also throughout the world. I want to briefly talk about a part of our history that really defines who we are as a school. In the mid-60s, there was a student who had an idea that given what she knew pharmacists knew in terms of practice, that they could play a stronger, more prominent role if they had access to patients. And so back then, pharmacies were located mostly in the basement of hospitals, kind of out of sight, out of mind. They were just really dispensing medication. This student got together a group of other students with some faculty members and instituted a pilot project where they brought the pharmacy out of the basement onto a floor of the medical center. And that's where the idea of clinical pharmacy was founded, where the idea that pharmacists could interact directly with patients, could be a part of the healthcare team, interact with families, and really have the impact to sort of influence healthcare decisions with patients. And so that's where the idea of clinical pharmacy was born. And it really dictates the type of program that we are, the type of students that we admit who really have a deep passion for clinical pharmacy and who really want to pursue careers that are going to build upon the type of training that they get at UCSF. I'm the first person that will tell a prospective student who only wants to work in retail or community pharmacy that this might not be the right program for them. It is a noble path in pharmacy, and we certainly need community and retail pharmacists, particularly now when we're looking at the pandemic and vaccines. They're going to play a very, very key role in moving forward. But our program is really, really designed to put pharmacists in healthcare settings where they really have an impact with patient care and the healthcare team. And that's not always a role that pharmacists play in community pharmacies. And so this is kind of what dictates who we are, how our program is set up, how our curriculum is set up. And again, the type of students that we admit into the program are those that we feel make a good fit for becoming a true clinical pharmacist. So UCSF is a research institution. I'm sometimes hesitant to mention this because I think it scares people. They think that they have to have a strong research background, and that couldn't be anywhere near what's really accurate in terms of what we look for. But those students who really want to pursue avenues of research certainly can do that at UCSF, and those opportunities do exist. But it's not for everyone, and those not interested in research certainly can find their place at UCSF, particularly with the clinical aspect I just mentioned. I'm going to focus on the PharmD program, but it's important for our students and our applicants to know that we're more than just the PharmD program in the School of Pharmacy. We also have PhD students who are pursuing training in different programs. And we have one of the largest residency programs in the country in pharmacy practice. So again, we're a school of pharmacy that has different educational programs, the PharmD being one of those programs. So as we start to look at the PharmD, we believe that the UCSF PharmD is a multifaceted and compassionate leader in pharmacy with a scientific mindset and a limitless future. So what does that mean? Well, a scientific mindset really for us is that science really underpins all teaching and learning. You have to have a scientific mindset to make clinical decisions. It's based on science. And so we really, really have developed a curriculum that prepares students to be those scientists to make those clinical decisions. Having strong essential science and knowledge of medications and drug therapy will serve you in a pharmacy career. And so really having that underpin everything that we do is really important to develop that scientific mindset, to be those critical thinkers, to be those people that will ask those scientific questions. So in terms of critical thinkers, we know that there's no way that we could teach everybody everything that they need to know in 3 years to sustain a lifetime of pharmacy practice. And so rather than train you to have all the answers, we train you to be critical thinkers. The questions that are going to be asked of you as a practitioner aren't going to be asked of you as a student because those questions may not exist. The drugs that you deal with as a pharmacist may not even be on the market now. And so pharmacy is a constant lifelong learning career. And so we cannot open your brain, pour everything in and send you on your way and expect that that's going to sustain for an entire career. But we can train you with foundational pieces of information to develop you as a critical thinker so that you can creatively problem solve and you're not afraid to ask questions throughout your career to sort of be able to come up with those solutions and to solve those problems. In addition, we believe that pharmacy has a limitless future. And so part of our program is really designed to prepare you and to expose you to various career options. And because we're a 3-year PharmD program, we expect our students to want to do something else. Most of our students go on to do a residency, although it's not required. But we always are looking for that idea that since you're going to get your PharmD degree at UCSF 3 years versus most schools have a 4-year program, what do you plan to do with that additional year? Or what do you plan to do to get additional training to be better than every other pharmacist that's graduating the same year you are across the country? And so we really prepare our students for advanced training. So as we start to look at the curriculum, and again, I'm going to go through this very quickly because I want to make sure that we can jump into the admissions information and know that all this information, we have multiple web pages for almost every slide that I'm going to cover. So if you see something that sort of triggers something that you want to dive a little bit deeper into, know that this information is available on our website as well. So in terms of our PharmD program, as I mentioned, we're a 3-year, year-round program, and we'll talk a little bit about what that year-round program looks like. Again, we really expect our applicants and our students, because they're in a 3-year program that allows them for early entrance into postgraduate training or residency, or for some of our students to really just jump into a pharmacy position after those 3 years. But our goal is to prepare you for advanced training beyond the PharmD degree. The curriculum is designed around 3 major components: building core knowledge, providing you with pharmacy practice experience, and the idea that you can explore new ideas and innovations in science. So the sort of exploration, kind of doing deeper dives in areas that aren't part of the core curriculum or part of your direct pharmacy experience. So I'm going to cover these really quickly. The building core knowledge is really sort of the foundation. What you would normally get with sort of the PharmD programs, or all the chemistry, all the biochemistry, all that kind of stuff. It's the sort of foundation of the program. Our program is built around integrated themes. And so our students are basically taking 1 class per block. So unlike what you would experience at the undergraduate level, where you're taking different classes throughout your 4 years or 5 years of an undergraduate career, and then you're kind of putting pieces together. A common experience would be maybe you take a class during the fall term of your 1st year, and then fast forward to the spring term of your 3rd year, you take another class that really depends on what you learned during that 1st quarter of your 1st year, and then you have to put the pieces together. Our program does not work like that. Our program is completely integrated. And so everything that you need to know about a particular physiological system of the body is covered all together. We actually teach the way it's practiced. And so this is part of building that core knowledge through those integrated themes. We also have patient care skills courses as part of this. So it's not always classroom learning, but it's also sort of that hands-on experience that's going to be required. Immunization training is certainly one of those things our students are dealing with now. So what I want to show you quickly is kind of a curriculum roadmap. And this document was one that's included in that link that's been posted in the chat box. So this kind of gives you a visual of what those 3 years look like. And you can see that we're a year-round program, but we have breaks that are built in throughout the curriculum. And so you can see that we have 1-week breaks, 2-week breaks, we have a 7-week break. So it's not a constant grind year round. You do get breaks throughout the program. So you can see the first 2 years, those kind of bright green boxes are the blocks, and you can see that they're built around the physiological systems of the body. You can see that after every block, there's a synthesis week where we do not teach or introduce new concepts to you. And we know as undergrads, you're constantly being bombarded with new material. Maybe it's an exam in one class and a lecture in another class. And so it's constantly input, output. In our program, we have a week where we stop the learning. We allow you to synthesize everything that you've learned in that block before you take a break and then move into the next block. And so it's really intended to provide some red lights for you to just kind of stop what you're doing and then kind of gear up before you begin again. And there's certainly those breaks that help you recharge throughout the curriculum. And so I encourage you to take a deeper look at this as well. You'll see the last year of the program, you're no longer in the classroom, but you're on your rotations. And those blue boxes are those rotations. We call those APPEs, which are advanced pharmacy practice experiences. And you see that they begin during the end of the 2nd year and they go full-time through the 3rd year. So it's kind of how our curriculum is laid out visually. In terms of pharmacy practice experience, our students actually start having direct pharmacy experience during their 1st year. It carries over to the 2nd year. And as I just mentioned, it's full-time during their 3rd year. In our old curriculum, before we introduced the 3-year program, we used to have our introductory pharmacy practice experiences during the first 2 years, a couple hours a day, maybe on a Monday, and then you would have a couple hours a day on a Wednesday the following week, and then maybe a couple hours on a Friday the following week. It was our opinion that our students didn't get sort of a 360 view of what it's like in pharmacy practice. And so our new curriculum, our 3-year program, is structured that 1 day a week, you are not in class, you are not on campus, but you are in a rotation all day. So that gives you an opportunity to have an entire experience through the course of a day, every week. And so it's kind of different than some PharmD programs, but this really gives you a good deep dive into having those direct experiences. The first year, those rotations are focused on community pharmacy. Again, this is an important piece of pharmacy practice. And we know that most of our students don't pursue this as a career, but it's really important to have that background and to get that sort of experience in the beginning. Then during the 2nd year, they move more into sort of focusing on health systems. And so we're looking at sort of more medical centers, the VA. By that time, you've been in pharmacy school for a year, so you have a little bit more under your belt. You're a little bit more familiar with it. You're more experienced, and you're more eager and hungry to get your hands really, really wet and dirty into pharmacy practice. And then, of course, during the 3rd year, it's full-time. We have 8 pharmacy rotations. However, we require 4. In order to graduate you with a PharmD degree, you have to have 4 core rotations. They're not up for discussion. You have to have those 4. However, the beauty of our program is the remaining 4 are selected by you. And we come from a philosophy that one size doesn't fit all. And so what Jenny might be interested in could be completely different than what Dana's interested in. And so it may be the case that Jenny has 4 rotations that are really focused on areas of pharmacy practice that she is interested in, but Dana may have a whole different set of ideas that she wants to do for a pharmacy career. And so maybe her rotations are focused in other areas, but both of them will have those 4 core rotations because those are critical in order to be licensed as a pharmacist. So that kind of gives you an idea of pharmacy practice. Not all of our students do rotations in San Francisco. We have 6 different rotation sites in California. Actually, it's 5 because the Bay Area is really considered one, although the map shows it as 2 different sites. So basically what happens is our students do 2 years of the core curriculum in San Francisco, and that final year, they do rotations at one of these 5 sites. The students don't rotate among the sites, but they go to that one site and do all of their 8 rotations in that one site. And this really works well for us because we admit students from all over California. We admit slightly more than 50% of our students are from Southern California. And so this really provides them an opportunity to be in the Bay Area for 2 years and then go back closer to home to do those rotations. So our rotation sites are the Bay Area, which is housed at UCSF, obviously, but includes sort of South Bay, sort of Stanford Medical Center, and sort of that South Bay area. North Bay for us is everything north of the Golden Gate Bridge. So that includes sort of Rohnert Park, Marin County, Cotati, et cetera. Greater Sacramento, which is based at UC Davis Medical Center. Fresno, we have the UCSF Fresno Center where our medical students and our pharmacy students are doing their rotations. And finally, Los Angeles, Orange County, which is really kind of sort of the hub. The faculty is based at Irvine, but it really includes the whole Los Angeles, Orange County area. And then we've had students that are from sort of Riverside area. And so they've been able to do their rotations closer to home. And so that's, even further from LA, Orange County. So it just kind of depends where students, once students end up deciding on the site to go to do those rotations, then our faculty work with those students to decide where physically they want to be within those geographic areas. So if a student is in sort of northern LA, in Van Nuys area, they may be doing all their rotations sort of up in that area, rather than sort of having to go back and forth. So just kind of give you a visual of how our rotations are laid out. And then finally, a key piece of our curriculum is really the idea that you can explore different areas of practice. It's not enough to just provide you with that core curriculum and pharmacy practice experiences, but because you're at UCSF, which is a cutting edge institution, we want you to be able to do some deeper dives into areas that you may not have exposure to at any other pharmacy school. And so, being able to be a part of seminars, being able to be engaged in things maybe outside of pharmacy practice, but still within the healthcare arena, this is very much a part of our curriculum. And so part of it is really carved out to allow you to do that exploration and really be engaged in working with not only pharmacy students, but students from the other schools as well as part of interprofessionalism. So part of our curriculum also includes a discovery project, and this has always been a part of our program, even with an older 4-year curriculum. It's not a senior thesis, it's not a doctoral dissertation, but it's a final project that you work with a group of students in your class on topics that are interesting to you. And it allows you to sort of put together different things you've learned in the program, sort of, your research skills, your patient skills, whatever area that you might be interested in, to kind of dive deeper into a project and maybe put together a poster, a presentation. We've had some of the students turn their projects into publications. Just kind of depends on the level of engagement. This is also an opportunity for our students who are really, really interested in doing deeper dives into bench research, who may be interested in pursuing a PhD, to be able to really focus within the curriculum the opportunity to do that research as part of their discovery project. But again, most of our PharmD students are really clinicians, and so they tend to do projects really related to some area of patient care. So, we also believe in professional success and really nurturing that as part of our students. So we really focus on career development, on your well-being, really developing professionalism in the program as part of your entire learning experience. So it's not enough just to focus on pharmacy, but you're actually going to be, a professional. And so what does that mean and how can we get you to that point? We are on a no pass grading system in our program. It's a competency-based grading system. And so we expect our students to, have a certain level of knowledge, but it's not based on a grade. It's a certain level of competency. And it really, focuses on integrating the information and being able to sort of master it in that way. But we also have multiple opportunities to to take exams. And so, you know, it's very common for our students to not pass exams on their first round. And that's okay, because we want them to get to a certain competency. It's not about failing, but it's about getting to that sort of knowledge level so that you can be the type of practitioner that, you know, can be trustworthy. We don't want to send people out into the world getting, you know, C- grades in some of those key areas, but we want everyone to have a really strong competency. And so we have a really, really, really interesting way to reassess people when they don't pass a certain part of the curriculum. We want to reassess, we want to reteach, we want to make sure that you know that before you move on to the next block. So in terms of student success, we have campus-based organizations, much like you would experience at the undergraduate level. But again, this is graduate school, health sciences. So almost everything is really focused around health sciences in that sense. And we really provide, you know, funds for our students to attend conferences and professional meetings. We believe it's important for you to develop as a professional. And so we put our money where our mouths are and really support you by funding our students to attend conferences and seminars. About 94% of our students are on full financial aid. We have single, student, and family housing. Again, it's a graduate school, so all of our campus housing is apartment style. It's not your traditional dorms or your residence halls that you might experience as an undergrad. And you can imagine being a campus like UCSF, our student health services are superior, and all that is sent upon admission into the program. As I mentioned earlier, we tend to focus on postgraduate placement. And so this shows you about the past 5 years where our students have gone immediately after graduation, with 50 to 60% pursuing a residency, about 20 to 30% pursuing a pharmacy position, smaller percentage pursuing a fellowship, which is again more focused on bench research. And then we've had a small percentage pursue another degree. If you look at more recently, that number for students of ours pursuing a residency has increased dramatically. And so it's more like 75, 80% of our students are pursuing a residency. It's just the type of student that we admit into the program that really has an inclination to go on to pursue a residency because they want to work in those positions that require it, which are really those clinical positions. So we have a very high success rate in our residency matching, more than 80%. It was the highest in the country. Some of those residencies are in California, but we certainly have out-of-state residencies that our students pursue as well. And in 2020, we achieved the highest residency match rate of any PharmD program in the country. We're always really high, but this year we were the highest. And so we're really super excited about that. Again, it's really what our students tend to focus on, and we really prepare them for that next step. So we're really proud of that. So as we transition into admissions, just want to remind students that our entering class size is 127. Our application deadline is November 1st. We don't have rolling admissions or we don't have early admissions. We have one deadline. And as long as students meet that deadline, they're as eligible as the person who submitted their application 3 or 4 months before the deadline. We just don't have a system that rewards people for submitting early or submitting close to the deadline. As long as you've met the deadline, you're good to go. We have a 2.8 cumulative undergraduate GPA is calculated by PharmCast. That's everything at the undergraduate level. So it includes courses that you're taking at UC Irvine, courses that you're taking at community colleges, any college level course that you took while you were in high school but got college level credit for, that's still included as part of your cumulative undergraduate GPA. We do admit students that fall below that 2.8. And so there's a process that when someone applies that has below a 2.8, they can request that we waive that. So it's kind of an appeal process. And we consider those appeals. And if we feel that they're worthy of being able to transition into a doctoral level program with a really low GPA, sometimes those students are successful in our admissions process. And the class that we admitted in the summer of 2020, there was actually a student with a 2.57 GPA that was admitted into the program. And then the high, there's always somebody with a 4.0 that has everything that we're looking for and also outstanding scholars. So there's 2 parts to the application process. One is the PharmCast online application, which you're probably familiar with. And then we have a UCSF application processing fee, and both of those are required. The deadline for PharmCast for us is November 1st, and that's where you send all your transcripts and your recommendation letters. We don't accept anything outside of the application. So every year I get people wanting to send, additional letters or, scrapbooks, videos and such. Everything is part of the PharmCast application for us, just to create a level playing field for everyone. The application processing fee is also available online, and information is provided to students who create a PharmCast application. So I don't want to go into too much detail because this is kind of getting into the nuts and bolts of things. But we also do have fee waivers available, and so when we get to the point of launching our application next summer, we'll certainly provide that information on our website or be able to answer questions by email for applicants interested in pursuing a fee waiver. Most of you know that we don't require the PCAT, although we did for about 3 years. I want to make it very, very clear that we don't require it anymore. And we actually, we've made it optional for people who think that they could benefit from it. And benefiting from it means those students who might have those really, really low GPAs, like a 2.57, and who are appealing the GPA requirement. They can sometimes make a case by having a strong PCAT score. But otherwise, we really don't utilize this as part of the admissions process, and in many ways discourage people from taking it because it's something that really doesn't help you. The application is so in-depth and has so many essay questions that's what we tend to focus on, rather than these PCAT scores that only reflect one afternoon, one moment in time, one exam. It doesn't really give us a sense of who you are and what type of a practitioner you would be. Our academic prerequisites, we require about 2 years of college level coursework. Most of our applicants submit their application and still have courses that they're working on and they plan to take after they submit their application before they start pharmacy school, and that's perfectly fine. It's very common with our applicants. We also accept AP scores, and we have a very intuitive page on our website that outlines all the AP subject areas and how we calculate credits for AP scores. And finally, we have no expiration date on coursework. On our website, we go over all the different subject areas. This is just kind of a snapshot. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it because we go into much greater detail on our website, and I want to be able to make sure that we have some time for some questions. But again, part of the documents that have been included in the link include courses that we accept from UC Irvine to fulfill our prerequisite requirements. So it should be pretty intuitive and pretty easy for you to figure those classes out. In terms of our admissions timeline, in July is when the application becomes available. As I mentioned, the deadline is November 1st. We spend the months of November and December reviewing applications, having all those done by the time we leave for winter break in late December. Candidates are invited for interviews. We send those out in December and early January. Our interviews are conducted in January. This year, they'll obviously be virtual. Our admissions committee sort of puts all the packages back together once we have the benefit of the interviews. We review those in February, and our decisions are emailed by March 1st. My goal is always to have them out by like the 3rd week in February, but we reserve that last week in February in case we have some really hard decisions we're making with applicants. But generally speaking, we try to get those all out pretty early because we know people want that information ASAP. We prepare students to be leaders in pharmacy, and grade point average is one piece of the puzzle. We look at so many other things like communication skills, leadership potential, uniqueness, critical thinking skills. What have you done in terms of community service? What kind of insight do you have for healthcare? It doesn't have to be experience directly, but we really want to make sure that you're on the right path with pursuing a PharmD degree. So when we look at the students who were admitted this summer, their academic background was characterized by a breadth of coursework. Most of them had attended a 4-year college. I think all but 3 of them completed a bachelor's degree. We don't require a bachelor's degree, but most of the students who apply to our program do have a bachelor's degree. The average cumulative GPA was a 3.44 for that cohort, and the average science GPA, it's always lower. It's a 3.34. So, The average GPA has been slowly going down every year, and I'm actually really proud of that because I think it really speaks to the fact that, you know, having a B average is fine. It's, you know, I think people think that you have to roll in with, you know, being a straight A student. And that's just not what we look for in our program. We would much rather have someone who is a consistent, you know, above average, which, you know, is like a B student that really was engaged in different activities, really had an authentic, you know, experience in college, really is able to articulate what their aspirations are on the application, you know, kind of looking at sort of a well-rounded person. And that doesn't mean that you have to be an outstanding scholar. And that's really a big myth that we're constantly addressing, is that you have to be a straight A student to be a good fit in our program. And that couldn't be further from the truth. Their personal motivation was shown by community service and volunteer work, knowledge of pharmacy and healthcare, strong communication skills. Their applications were very detailed. They had strong, detailed recommendation letters, thought-provoking statements. Their interviews were confident, and their on-site essays reflected the type of communication skills that they demonstrated in the application. And, you know, for UC students, you know, you should be able to write an essay out of college, you know, and so that's one of the things we look for is, you know, sort of those written communication skills. Nothing, you know, we're not looking for Nobel laureate work. We're looking for someone who can put together, you know, a less than 1-page essay on a topic and be able to demonstrate those important communication skills. We look for applicants who can work effectively in teams and interprofessionally, because at UCSF, interprofessional education is key. All of our students are working together across disciplines because that's how it's practiced. You don't practice pharmacy on an island, you practice it with a healthcare team. And so that starts in our program. We look for students who look at problems from all angles, not just from a single point of view. As I mentioned when I began, we look for students who welcome ambiguity. And really, healthcare is very ambiguous. And, you know, I think the pandemic is a good example of something that everybody in healthcare is dealing with this whole year that nobody could have predicted a year ago. And so these kinds of ambiguity issues, these kinds of things that come up, we want students to approach those as opportunities to learn, and are really excited about that despite, you know, how devastating it's been. We look for students who are visible and accountable, whether or not as part of a small team or within complex, large systems. We look for lifelong learners. We look for those who can adapt to changing needs of different situations. And again, this was a great example of, you know, having to transition to remote learning. The type of student that we want is someone who can say, you know what, let's go, let's roll with it. We're adapting, we're changing, but we're still going to continue to move forward. And so that mindset is something that we look for in the applicant. And we look for applicants who want to explore postgraduate training. Again, we're going to get you that PharmD degree in 3 years. So what is it that you're going to do afterwards? And we want to know that question. We want to know the answer to that question through the admissions process. Again, it's not required, but this is an opportunity for you to pursue advanced training. And we want to admit students who really have that mindset when they come into the PharmD program. As we begin to wrap up, some of you are familiar with our Inside UCSF program. And this is a 2-day program where we pay all expenses for you to be involved in kind of looking at UCSF from the inside. So we invite 20 prospective students from pharmacy, nursing, medicine, dentistry, and physical therapy, and bring them all together. And so the deadline for that program is January 15th. This year it will be online, but again, for students who are, you know, in first and second years, know that we will bring this back in person. But anyone who's interested in this, I'd encourage you to send us an email. Lauren and I really work closely with the Inside UCSF committee, and so we'd love to have a conversation with you about that. We also have a post-baccalaureate program. Sometimes people aren't ready to go directly into a PharmD program once they're done with their undergraduate degree. Usually it's because of academic issues that they had as undergrads. And so we do have a 1-year post-baccalaureate program in the School of Pharmacy that really is kind of a bridge to a PharmD program. And so we work closely with those students to get them the education, you know, build up that they need, get the foundation under them, and really prepare them to be strong PharmD applicants. And again, Lauren and I work very closely with our post-baccalaureate students. So if you have questions about this program, we'd love to set up a Zoom meeting with you to talk more about it if this is something that you might be interested in. And finally, I have an admissions blog, and I encourage people to go back and sort of dig deeper into admissions information. Even stuff that was posted, 7, 8 years ago could be valuable for someone who's applying now and in the future, because a lot of this stuff hasn't changed. And the blog has really allowed us to write and to speak more in a conversational tone than we can do on the website that tends to be more formal and more just specific information. So I encourage you to visit that and to spend some time going into some of those older blog posts. I know I went through that really quickly, but I wanted to be able to cover lots of different pieces of our program, and I'd be happy to field any questions that anybody has. And I'll leave it up to Dana to sort of facilitate that.
Yeah, so if anyone has questions for Joel or Ms. Anderson, feel free to unmute yourself and ask, or you can type in the chat.
Hello, Mr. Gonzales.
Hi.
I wanted to ask you, out of curiosity, for the 1% to 2% that chose to pursue other degrees, what were they, and what kind of mindset, kind of facilitated them wanting to pursue even further education?
Yeah, so that 1% to 2%, it's usually the PharmD PhD program, and so it's mostly students who want to go on to pursue that PhD. Although it's interesting because we generally have more students who have PhDs that come into the PharmD program than the other way around. But about every year we usually have 1 or 2 students that go on to pursue that PhD degree, and we've also had students that have gone on to pursue an MPH, and we've had a couple of students go on to pursue a law degree as well afterwards. So it's just kind of a mix, but mostly it's the PhD program.
Thank you very much. That's very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Hello. I was just wondering, what were some lessons UCSF has learned from transitioning to a virtual learning environment, and how do you feel this may influence the future curriculum? Yeah,
so I would think that the lessons learned were lessons that we've all learned. I think it's not unique to UCSF, and it's not unique to PharmD students. I think, we've all realized how hard it is to learn online. Attention spans are short. We've all realized that Zoom burnout is real. And so I think that we've learned that you can't just transition everything that happens in person online, that some things work and some things don't. Breakout rooms can work, but sometimes that's not the effective way to learn. And so I think that there are some inherent challenges that have happened. And part of it is just all of you have experienced, it was quick. Like it was a matter of days that we transitioned from our normal lives to an online world. And so I think through the course of that spring term was kind of rough. I think that we sort of learned a lot from that and kind of were able to sort of reposition and sort of imagine how the curriculum was delivered as we moved into the sort of the summer and into the fall. Moving forward, I think the silver lining is now we know what we can do online. And it used to be the case that everything had to be in person, that no one met online. I think that the silver lining in the pandemic is we know that we can meet virtually. We know that we can have small group meetings. We know that we can take care of a lot of stuff online. I mean, we're going to come out of this with a whole new skill set of being able to do everything more efficiently, more effectively. And I think when we start to look at healthcare, online interaction with patients is a real thing. And I think moving forward, that's going to be part of, the preparation that we have for students as they move out into pharmacy practice, is training them to be the type of clinician effectively online as they would be in person. It's not ideal. And it's been really challenging for us as a program because we're very high touch. you all know that. Christy, I've seen you multiple times every year for the past couple of years. I mean, we are always actually meeting with people and physically in spaces with people. And so this has been hard, but it's also, you know, we realize that there are some opportunities that we can now reach out to people online. So I think it's, you know, I think we're all learning that. So.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Looked like Andrew, did you have a question? Was your hand raised? No.
Hello, I had a question actually. First, I want to thank you guys for your presentation. It was very insightful. And I know that a big stressor you mentioned was how you take a lead on clinical pharmacy. And I know these days, you know, pharmacists are becoming like a more of an integral part of like hands-on patient care. And I was wondering how your curriculum specifically would differ from other pharmacy schools in getting experience in clinical hospital pharmacy.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a good question. I think for us, yeah, the nature of the training that happens at UCSF, not just in pharmacy, but in the disciplines across campus, is really focused on patient care. And that's first and foremost in every curriculum, whether it's pharmacy, medicine, dentistry, or nursing. And I think, you know, given the fact that we, you know, we're a teaching hospital, we're a medical center, we're a university that is, you know, part of the medical center, I think it really provides that type of environment for our students. Which is not to say that that's unique. You know, there's certainly other programs that have access to that kind of a training landscape, but not every school of pharmacy has that opportunity to do that. And so in many cases, you know, some PharmD programs are dependent on private, you know, hospitals and contracts that they have with different clinics to be able to allow their students to have those experiences, versus an institution like UCSF, where everybody that comes to UCSF to learn is nurtured by other people on the campus who are working to teach and train those students. So doctors don't come to work at UCSF, nurses don't come to work at UCSF, pharmacists don't come to work at UCSF without knowing that their responsibility is to train the next generation of practitioners, because that's what happens at a teaching institution, at a teaching hospital. So everything is a classroom, basically. So even, you know, the hospital is a classroom. It's a laboratory. And that kind of environment is you know, it's a perfect training ground for the PharmD students. They have access to that. And we're not, we certainly have, you know, other sites that our students are getting their training at, but, you know, having that sort of that foundation at UCSF really provides that initial training ground.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So I want to be conscious of time, and it's 7 o'clock. I am going to, I've put my email as well as I'm typing really quickly, as well as Lauren's in the chat box. And we're very accessible. And so if you have any questions that we can answer or direct you to someplace on our website, know that you can reach out to us and we would be happy to field those questions. So otherwise, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to speak to UCI because we admit so many UCI students into our program. And I know that this is a well-prepared group of students. So thank you so much for the time.
And thank you so much for coming today. Can we get a round of applause for our guest speakers, please, everyone?
Thank you.
Woo!
Okay, with that being said, it is 7, so this is the end of our general meeting. But we will be having an after social after this meeting. If the social shares can please send the Discord link in the chat. Thank you again so much, Mr. Gonzalez and Ms. Anderson, for
Thank you.
coming and taking time out of your busy day to come speak to us.
Thank you so much. We hope to see you back in person anytime soon, if that's possible in the future.
I miss my trips to OC.
Ah.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so if you're staying for the social, please hop on to the Discord link that Clayton just sent in the chat.
Thanks for coming, everybody. See you in there.